Hello guys, once again welcome back. This is chapter 2, equations and inequalities, and the first question, the first section, and the chapter 2 is completing squares. So yeah, let's get into it. In factorization we have this thing where if you have a squared minus b squared, if you have anything of this form, you realize you have a difference of two squares. The reason is you have a squared number, and you are subtracting, right? So that's a difference of two squares. If you're asked to factorize this, your answer is gonna be, it's always like this. You don't even have to think about it. You have a b, you have a b, and then as for your signs, it's plus or minus plus, whichever one you start with. But it's just always like this, right? It's always like this. Yeah, you can even do your FOIL, or just try to expand this. It will lead you straight back to this guy we have over there, right? Making an example, I'll say x squared minus 16, which is the same as x squared minus 4 to the power of 2, right? That is the same thing. Now I have what? I can see it clearly. I have difference of two squares. To factorize this, the answer is just going to be a simple. I have x, I have 4, I have x, I have 4, and then plus minus. And then I'm done. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's look at a different problem to factorize, right? Say for an example, you have this one. You have x squared minus 4x plus 4, right, is equals to 0. And say you are asked to factorize this equation, and of course, under equations, when you're trying to solve for x and you have a quadratic equation, you're going to have to factorize, in order for you to eventually get to the answer. So now what are we going to do? We have to factorize this guy. Let's go back to that old method of mine. Right here, we know the coefficient is 1. So we take the first coefficient, we take a, we say a, which is 1 here, multiply by what? By the last term, which is 4. The answer is 4. Now we're going to find the factor of 4 in pairs. It's 1 multiplied by 4 and 2 multiplied by 2. And then we take, look at this pairs, né? And we try to find a pair which is going to give us the middle coefficient, this guy over here. We're looking at this pair. We want a pair that is going to give us the number we have in the middle, which is minus 4. It doesn't matter whether you add or you subtract, right? So I'm looking at 2. If I say I have minus 2, the answer is minus 4. So I'm going to take it. I have x squared minus 2, x minus 2, x plus 4 equals to 0. Now I'm going to group the first two, and I group the last two. What's going on? Sorry for that. Plus 4. So now okay, equals to 0. Now I just take out the common factors in both brackets. Here I just have x minus 2, and then right here my common factor, highest common factor, is going to be minus 2, so I just take it out. So I have x minus 2 equals to 0. I have another common factor, which is this bracket x minus 2, so I take it out. X minus 2 equals to 0, right? And you realize you can just always say that you have x minus 2 squared equals to 0. So these problems, they are a bit easier to solve. The question though is, what happens if you have a different problem, like a problem like this one? Let me see. Say the same problem, but instead of the last coefficient being positive, the last coefficient is negative, right? Minus 4. what if you have something like this? How are you going to solve it? You're trying to solve for x, and with all the methods that we have learned, the tools that we have learned to factorize, let us try to break it down. So, if you don't want to think hard about it, we just go to the method we just did. The coefficient here is 1, so 1 multiplied by 4, you get your answer being 4. Factors of 4, it's 1 and 4 and 2 and 2, right? We look at the pair that's going to give us the middle number, whether we add or subtract, is this 2. So we just do exactly what we did above there. So you have x squared minus 2x minus 2x minus 4 equals to 0. Now you group them, right? To group them, x minus plus minus 2x minus 4, right, equals to 0. Factorize, we take x, we are left with x minus 2, and then here I'm just gonna show you, say our highest common factor is minus 2, so we take out minus 2, we're gonna have x plus 2, right, equals to 0. But now we have a problem, right? The problem we have is that we don't have any common factor. There's no common factor. Like our brackets, if you look at them, the other one has a plus, the other one has a minus, and at the same time, the numbers which we took out as the highest common factor previously are also not common numbers. They're not the same, so with the methods we have learned, it's kind of hard, you know it's kind of hard to move from where we are right now and go get the answer. We don't have a highest common factor. We cannot take it out, do our brackets, and therefore be able to solve for x. We cannot do that, right? So now the question is, what are we going to do? Completing squares is the solution to such problems, right? So before we try to solve problems, let's talk about what we mean by completing squares. Cool. So now we want to factorize and solve the number, the trinomial that we had, but of course it was a problem. So now we said the solution to our problem is what? Completing squares. So I made a few notes here, just which steps we're gonna go through in order for us to complete a square. So you have your trinomial here. I wrote it in its standard form. So the first thing, you just want to make sure that the coefficient of x squared is what? Is 1. So here, what are you gonna do in that case? You divide by a everywhere, so that you end up having just x squared, right? You end up just having just x squared plus whatever comes after here, right? That's the first thing you do. But if the coefficient of x squared is already 1, so you don't have to do step number 1, you just go to step number 2, where you look at the coefficient of x. You take coefficient of x and you divide it by 2. In this case we have b, so you say b divided by 2, just the coefficient, right? Then that coefficient, in the next step you're gonna take it, b, right? So you're gonna add it, you square it, and then you subtract the square of it. You're gonna do exactly this, but if you don't get it now, it's just gonna be easy if we do examples. And then you will see what we mean in step 4 by factorizing the first 3. So to make it easy, just for an example, we're gonna use the number we had previously, which it was x squared 4x minus 4. Cool. So right here we have the number that we had previously, the one which we were solving. So the first thing, remember step 1 of completing squares, make sure the coefficient of x squared is what? Is 1, which here the coefficient is 1, so we are done. Jump to step number 2. Step number 2, we take the coefficient of x, which is 4, and that 4 we divide it by 2. So 4 divided by 2, what is the answer? The answer is 2. So now the next step, it says that x squared minus 4x. So the next step, we're gonna take this 2 we're gonna add it. We're gonna add it and we're gonna subtract it. But now when we add it, we add the square of it and we subtract the square of it. Then we have our minus 4, right? So you're going to realize that we didn't actually change the number we have. We didn't change, the problem we're trying to solve, because after all, when you add these two, you're gonna get 0 and everything is gonna look the same as it looks from, let me just say from A, right? Everything is just gonna look the same as it looks from A, right? So we still have our equals to 0. So now, from grade 10 we can, group this and then factorize this first 3, right? When we factorize this first 3, you'll realize that actually with this one we did it. Yes, I think we did do it, because of course here you have 4, so right here you have 4, and we look at the previous page. This is the problem that we did, exactly the same. So the answer is just gonna be this. So what do you have? You have black pen, you have x minus 2 squared, right? You still have your minus. Let's just square it. 2 squared is 4, minus 4 equals to what? Equals to 0. Continue further. X minus 2 squared minus 8 equals to 0. Trying to solve for x, there are 2 methods. I'm just gonna do it. Yeah, but in the next coming examples we'll just stick to one method. So here person 1 can then say we take x minus 2 whole squared equals to 8, and then we just do the square root both sides. Then you have x minus 2, you have plus or minus square root of 8. Now you have x is equals to 2 plus or minus square root of 8. Now you have your answer. Of course, your answer is x1 equals to 2 plus square root of 8, and then x2 equals to 2 minus square root of 8. So that is what this plus or minus actually means. But now person 2 instead can then say what? Can then say, square root of 8 squared is the same as 8, right? So from that knowledge, what do you do? Look at me. From that knowledge, I'm just gonna write it up here. Square root of 8 squared is just equals to 8. We did this in the previous chapter. So now you're going to say you have x minus 2 squared minus square root of 8 squared equals to what? Equals to 0. So now you realize you have what? There's a subtraction, squared number. What is this? Difference of 2 squares. And how do we factorize difference of 2 squares? We say the first one, the first one, x minus 2, and then we have square root of 8. I'm gonna write our sign here, then another bracket. You have x minus 2 square root of 8 equals to 0. So now in terms of our signs, we know with difference of 2 squares, the other one is gonna be a plus, the other one is gonna be a minus. Other than that, everything is just the same, right? So you already have an equals to 0 that side. So what you can do, the next step, you can just say equate each bracket to 0. Say x minus 2 plus square root of 8 square root of 8 equals to 0, or x minus, okay, this one it's just bringing some confusion, so I'm gonna, yes, so you have x minus 2 minus square root of what? Square root of 8. Damn, I'm gonna have to charge this thing, equals to 0. All right, so now it's just solving x. we transpose everything, we get 2 minus square root of 8. X is equals to 2 plus square root of 8, and then you're done. The answers is just the same. Alright, so that is us completing squares. Right now we're gonna solve three examples. Under completing squares, and then we'll jump into the next unit. Cool. This is the first example. So step 1, the coefficient of x squared is already 0. I am joking. The coefficient of x squared is already 1, so we don't have to do anything. We can just jump straight into step 2. Step 2 says what? We focus in the middle number right here. What are we gonna do? We take it divided by 2. 10 divided by 2, the answer is 5. We know this 5, we're going to square it, right? We're going to square our 5, so I'm just gonna write it as 5, squared, and then we're gonna add and subtract this 5. So let's go back. X squared plus 10x. Now what do? We take the 5. I'm realizing there's something I forgot to show you, but I will show you in this example. We take that 5 squared, we add it and we subtract it, and then our 2 equals to 0. And like I said in the previous example, this is 0, so we did not change anything. So right now we can just group the first 3 terms, and these first 3 terms are the ones we're going to factorize. So right here, we factorize the first 3, but I want you to not overthink it when you now have to factorize the first 3. It's just simple, and it's always like that. You can prove it, but like in the exams, even if you just write what I'm gonna write right now, you're not gonna be penalized. So from here you can say you have x, and our focus is on the sign here. This is our focus. It's a positive, so we take that positive, and boom, we take the 5. So our focus is where? On the 5 and the sign. So now you take the whole thing, you square it, right? You are done factorizing. You can expand this, you will see it's gonna lead to the same answer, no problems. So now with the one outside is minus 25 minus 2 x plus 5 all squared minus 27. Right? So now let's just use the first method. It's gonna be squared equals to 27. Now square root, now plus minus square root, and now we just have x plus 5. We have plus or minus square root of 5, no, 27. Now what's next? X is equals to negative 5 plus or minus square root of 27. Then you are done, right? You don't have to do this, but you can just say x1 equals to minus 5 minus square root of 27, x2 equals to minus 5 plus square root of 27, right? Then you are done. Basically you are done. So like one thing I emphasized, our focus when we have to factorize, I'll use a purple color now. Our focus is here and the number here. Actually, I will say the number we got right here when we divided the middle term by 2. Or let me not say the middle term. When we divided the coefficient of x by 2. That is the number that we are focusing on. Right? Yeah. Let's do another interesting problem. Under completing squares. We have, let me say, 2. Alright, so there we go. Now, the first thing you realize, the coefficient of x squared, it has what? It has a number greater than what? Greater than 1. Or let me just say, generally speaking, the coefficient of x squared is not 1, so we have to make it 1. How do we do that? Divide everything by 3, right? So we do that. We have x squared plus plus 2x minus, this becomes 2 over 3 is equals to 0, right? Now we have 1 as our coefficient of x squared. The next thing, we focus where? The coefficient of x. We're gonna divide it by 2, so we take that, divide it by 2, we get what? We get 1. And remember, this one is gonna be of our interest when we factorize, ne? Cool. Cool stuffs. So let's do that. I have x squared plus 2x. Now I take plus 1 and I'm squaring my 1. I subtract 1 and I'm squaring my 1. Then there is minus 2 over 3 equals to 0. Right? Now, of course, I'm going to factorize this, but I know I don't have to overthink it. The focus is just here and the number inside here, because my answer is just going to be x and the sign here, it's plus, and the number here 1. Then I'm done. I just have my x squared minus 1 minus 2 over 3 equals to 0. Now for the sake of subtracting fractions, I'm just gonna write this in having denominator 3, which is 3 over 3, just yeah. And then of course you have x plus 1 squared minus 5 over 3 equals to 0. Looks like we're gonna need more space. I'll just let me just copy this guy, paste him here, paste. Cool. So you have this guy. Now let's go. We transpose 5 over 3, so you have x squared plus 1 squared is equals to 5 over 3. Do the square root, plus minus square root. You have x. No, this guy is wrong, so it's in the bracket, it's x plus 1, not x squared plus 1. So you have x plus 1 is equals to plus or minus square root of 5 over 3. X is equals to negative 1 plus or minus 5 over 3, right? So it's a really interesting example, this one. Yeah,